The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is looking really special. The demo we saw during Nintendo's E3 livestream and later played ourselves did an excellent job of getting across what a new, open-world Zelda game can now accomplish. For a start, it's clearly massive, with the developers claiming the world map this time around is something like 12 times as large as the one we saw in Twilight Princess. 12 times! I'm not entirely sure what to do with that information, to be honest. It's a really big game, yes. But perhaps just as impressive as that is the way in which Breath of the Wild seems to nail the smaller moments. A big map may make for some eye-catching headlines pre-release, but it's what you can do within that world that really, truly matters. It's the fact that you can grab a treasure chest in a metal plank using a magnet and a boulder as well, which I guess has some metal inside. I'm not sure how that works. It doesn't matter. And using these free items, construct an actual honest-to-God catapult, which allows you to do this. The game doesn't need you to make a catapult. It doesn't really care whether or not you do. It's just something fun that you can try and it works, and that's excellent. It's these smaller details that make open-world games come to life. And so, with that in mind, here are 7 tiny details that we really like about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
So, you'll no doubt have seen that Link can go full pyromaniac in his next adventure, setting fire to his enemies, his weapons, or just, the grass that he's standing next to. In that case, by the way, the heat generated by the flames actually creates an updraft that you can ride with your wing glider. If you manage to locate a fire rod, you can hurl fiery orbs as you please. Otherwise, you'll need to find a campfire or create your own using a piece of flint and some wood. Campfires also allow you to change the time of day at will, which takes us nicely onto
Breath of the Wild has a full day-night cycle, with each minute you play equating to 1 hour's worth of game time. We're not exactly sure what kind of impact this has on the gameplay itself, although we can probably expect some variation in either the enemies or their behaviour at different points throughout the day. We have already seen that some creatures will stop defending their camps and go to sleep, for example. Either way, this is something of a technological leap for the Wii U. We're not used to games looking this good on Nintendo's console, and yes, we're expecting even more from the NX version.
Actually, before we forget about fire, wait, hang on, why am I getting all the sections about burning things?
Well, it's not really about burning things unless you're bad at it, I guess. We're talking about cooking here. So in Breath of the Wild, the only way to replenish Link's health is to eat stuff, right? But there's more to that system than you might first give it credit for. Let's say you're hunting a boar and you manage to bring it down with a couple of arrows like this. Well, it'll drop a steak, just a single steak, apparently, which seems a little stingy. Anyway, you take that raw steak, you drop it on an open flame, and it turns into a seared steak, which replenishes 1.5 hearts of health.
However, if you do it like this, with a cooking pot, you'll get a steak skewer, which is worth 2 hearts instead. Start throwing in additional items like vegetables or seasoning, and you can create items that not only heal you to full health, but provide additional health on top. Suddenly, you're thinking differently about the items in your inventory, and what could have been a relatively mundane healing mechanic turns into something more creative. Also, the cooking pot plays an adorable effect whilst it's cooking your ingredients.
Listen, if you're going to be starting all these fires, you're going to need to chop down a few trees. That sounded like a proverb, it wasn't meant to. But yes, whilst you're doing that, why not take a brief moment to appreciate that the tree trunks themselves, right? If you knock them down into a nearby river like this, they actually float. More than that, they'll be carried downstream and may even end up creating a makeshift dam, which you can then try to jump across. I'll admit, there are much, much easier ways of getting across rivers in this game, but that's a really brilliant touch, isn't it?
You can pick up and then equip pretty much every weapon used by your enemies. Swords, spears, clubs, shields, skeleton arms that continue to move around despite the fact you chucked their master's head into a lake. It's all usable. You'll also see enemies leave their weapons to one side when out of combat or picking up a better weapon dropped by one of their friends. And really, it's a good thing that there are so many weapons to add to your inventory. Everything we've seen so far has a durability meter to consider and will eventually break, which can happen at some rather inopportune moments.
Climbing things is good as well. Trees, walls, giant world bosses, you name it, Link can try to scramble up it using his arms and his legs before his stamina meter gives out. And the Step Talus in particular has me kind of excited. That's the world boss that you can encounter during this demo, because it brings games like Shadow of the Colossus or Dragon's Dogma springing to mind. Games with gigantic boss fights, much bigger than this one, that involve you steadily climbing your way upwards, facing some impossible odds, but eventually bringing down that giant enemy by stabbing it in its shiny parts. Yeah, Breath of the Wild looks well equipped to try something similar here, and I kind of want to see what Nintendo manage with an idea like that. But yes, I think it's only right that we end with what is perhaps the most important change that Breath of the Wild is bringing to the Zelda franchise. It's a clear winner when it comes to new, seemingly small additions that can have a large impact on how this game plays, and that will be, of course, the dedicated jump button. Look at that, you press a button and Link just straight up jumps. Button press, jump, button press, jump. This series will never be the same again. And that'll do it. Thanks for watching this week's Eurogamer Show. If you enjoyed it, do give us a like, or if you think we've missed something, which evidently you will, as this is a YouTube list video, you can tell us so in the comments. That'll make you feel loads better. Cheers very much. Bye.